Everybody, Dr. Powers here. We're going to talk a little bit about scatterplots and linear regression. First, we want to look at a couple examples, and these are I made these up to really just kind of guide you through the challenge activities for this week's module in particular. I don't think these are going to be too difficult, but I think it's still worth discussing. So first, we want to talk a little bit about what a scatterplot tells us about the type of relationship between two variables. First off, we should mention that, so I guess first just to talk about the way these scatter plots are structured in case you don't already realize. So what we do is we have an x-axis, like a horizontal axis and a vertical axis, and we have two variables. One, the x variable, the one that we plot horizontally, which we call the predictor variable, and sometimes we have other names for it, but I think predictor is pretty common. And then we have the other variable, which we use the predictor variable to try to predict this other variable. We call it the response variable. Sometimes we'll call the predictor variable an independent variable, and the response variable we call the dependent variable because its value depends on the the x variable. So in all these cases, I've plotted the same variable x across the horizontal axis, and what I have for the vertical coordinate for these points is either the value y1, y2, or y3. You can see my data is over here, and so we have three different response variables, and I want to look at what kind of relationship they have with the predictor and how we'd kind of decide which of these relationships it's most appropriate to use linear regression for. Now, the short answer is whichever shape looks most like a line is the most appropriate. And I think here you can see the relationship that y1 has with x. It looks very much like a line. Of course, there's going to be variation around that, but the pattern follows this linear trajectory. Yeah, you can see y2 looks like a smiley face. It's a very curved relationship. In fact, I built this by using it's actually a parabolic. It's like a parabola, like a x squared basically is the relationship there. And so a linear regression would not be appropriate for this variable because it has a very obvious non-linear shape to the scatter plot. If you look at y3, part of the graph does look like it is linear, but if you really look at it in its entirety, you can see it kind of comes down and then swoops across. So actually, this is what you would see when you have an exponential relationship between the two variables. And a linear regression is not appropriate for this type of shape either. So let's look at this question. We have here some simulated iris flower uh, measurements simulated similar to the famous Fisher data set. And so we're going to use, let's open this a little bit. We're measuring for all of these different flowers. We're measuring the sepal length, the sepal width, the petal length, and the petal width. And so what we want to do is create a linear regression model to predict the dependent variable is going to be the sepal width, and the independent or predictor variable is the sepal length. So we're trying to explain the sepal width through what is the value of sepal length. All right. Now, how are we going to do this in Excel is maybe first it's worth just showing you what we can do uh, to visualize this with a scatter plot. So what I'm going to do is actually, when you create a scatter plot in Excel, the absolute number one requirement is that your horizontal variable, your predictor variable, is in the column to the left. Excel doesn't understand what to do with the predictor variable being to the right. So the sepal length is to the left because it's my predictor. I'm going to select all of my data. It goes down row 76. Okay. And I'm going to keep the top two cells which have the titles. I can use those. Now I go up to the insert menu, insert And then under the charts, there's one that inserts scatter XY or bubble chart. I'm going to click on that and click the first choice, which is scatterplot. Now you see here, actually the way this thing is set up is the axes both start at 0. This isn't really ideal for what I want to do. I'm actually going to click on the x-axis, right click on it, and say I want to format the axis. And the option here says I can change my minimum. I'm going to change the minimum to be 4 because there's nothing less than 4. And I'm going to go back and do the same thing for my y-axis. I'm going to right click on it, format axis, and I'm going to go over to the minimum and change the minimum to 2. The only reason I'm really doing this is just so that the data shows up more fully on this and I don't have all this wasted space. Okay, now the first observation I'm going to make is that it does seem like sepal width and sepal length have a linear relationship. This is the kind of shape you would get when your data has a moderate positive linear relationship. We would say that it's positive because as the sepal length increases, that's the horizontal value, as that tends to get bigger, the sepal width also tends to get bigger. That's what you call a positive relationship. If one variable increasing is associated with the other variable decreasing, that's what you call a negative relationship. And if there's really just no upward or downward slope, there you would say there's no relationship. That's what you call independent variables. So this is a picture of the scatter plot. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to get the linear regression line. The first and the simplest is actually on the chart. When I've created a scatter plot, I can click the plus button, add a chart element. I'm going to go down and add a trend line. In fact, when I add the trend line, I'm going to check that. You can see I have a trend line, but I'm going to click over here to this little arrow. And I'm going to go down to more options. That's going to open up options over on the right. And what you'll see is I can actually go down to the bottom. This allows me to have other kinds of trends besides linear, but we're not going to deal with that in this class. I'm going to go down to the bottom and say I want to display the equation on the chart. Click that and you can see now that my equation, my linear equation, is right here for me. Y equals 0.935x minus 1.3065. That's the slope and the intercept. If I wanted to get those values, slope and intercept, I can use functions that are in Excel. For the slope, I type in equals SLOPE, parentheses, and I'm going to go and select first the known y's, which are my response variable. That's sepal width. So I'm going to select all my sepal widths. That's C2 down to C76, comma, and I'm going to now select my known x's. That's my sepal lengths. That's my predictor variable. Notice that the order of things is different. Before if you have to go y values, then x values. And after doing that, I'm going to hit enter, and that gives me the slope. Now this is to more decimal places, but I'm going to later on do the rounding, and you'll see I get the exact same thing. I'm going to do the intercept next, and actually I'm going to copy part of this formula. I'm going to copy the ranges because for the intercept function, it's the exact same except it's instead of the word slope, it's the word intercept. INTERCEPT. And then I'm going to paste in my parentheses that have the ranges. Again, it's the known y's and then the known x's. Hit enter, and that's going to give me this slope. I'm going to just go ahead and take these values and I'm going to go to my formatting and change the decimal precision to, I'm going to round it down to 3 decimal places. I think when you're working in Zybooks, it's going to want you rounding to 3 decimal places most of the time, and you can be marked wrong if you include more decimal places of precision. So be warned of that. And so there you go. So that's the slope and the intercept, and of course you would write it out as sepal width. Actually, it's really expected sepal width equals 0.935 times sepal length minus 1.306. This would be the least squares regression line equation, we call it a linear model as well. The thing to bear in mind, I put in this word expected, which means that if you were going to use this model to predict the sepal width, for any sepal length, the value that you get after plugging it in, is going to give you not the precise sepal width for such a flowers with such a sepal length, but this is going to be our estimate for the average sepal width for all flowers that have that particular sepal length. Okay, so it's the expected or average sepal width for a given sepal length. That's what this model gets us. Okay, that's something to bear in mind, and that idea will become more clear in time. Okay, let's look at some other data here. We have patients' ages and their systolic blood pressure. We're going to use this data to create a model to predict a patient's systolic blood pressure from their age. So, systolic blood pressure is the response variable and age is the predictor variable. I'm going to just use the formulas this time for the slope and the intercept. I'll put them here. The slope, of course, SLOPE. And remember, I put in equals first. Equals tells Excel that you're using a formula. And I'm going to take their known Y's, the systolic blood pressures. I can select them all in one. It's all on the one sheet. B2 to B40, comma. My X's, A2 to A40. That's my slope. Intercept equals intercept, parenthesis, the same ranges, my systolic blood pressures and my ages. And there we go. That's my intercept. So the equation, I'm going to just to be consistent with Zybooks, I'm going to keep 3 decimal places of precision. So my model is going to be, this is the way you would write it. I don't have the right character, but it would be y hat equals. That's the expected or average systolic blood pressure is going to be 0.752 times x plus 107.611, where x is the patient's age. So a 48-year-old has systolic blood pressure of 130 milligrams mercury. What is the residual? Okay, so what we want to know is the actual blood pressure is 130, and the predicted is going to come from our model. The predicted is going to be the 0.752 times 48, because this person is a 48-year-old, plus 107.611. All right, that's my prediction using the values up above. I'm rounded to 3 decimal places. And this is my predicted blood pressure or systolic blood pressure for this person. The residual is the actual minus the predicted. It's actual minus predicted. It's not predicted minus actual. Actual minus predicted. So what that tells you is if you were to, actually, you know what we're going to do is I'm going to plot a scatter plot and the trend line. Okay, so what I've done is I've plotted the data. I put in the trend line so we can see it. You can see this positive relationship. And I've also, in addition to the blue dots, which have generated my linear model, I've also plotted this new observation of a 48-year-old. You can see that horizontally we're at 48 units in age, 48 years, and vertically we're at 130. So you can see this new point, 4830, is below the line of the regression line. So a negative residual means this dot would be plotted below the line. In other words, it means that my regression model overestimated the systolic blood pressure for this individual. That's how you interpret a negative residual. So for all those dots that are above the regression line, those all have positive residuals. So remember, the residual is the actual value minus the predicted value. So it's how far above or below that line the dot is. That's what a residual is. And the least squares, the regression model, is the line that minimizes the sum of all of the squared residuals. So if you could imagine all the different lines that could pass through this cloud of dots, and then for every line you could imagine, you take all the residuals, you square them all, you add them all up. This one that I have plotted right here, this one results in the smallest possible sum of squared residuals that you could ever get. So there we go. That takes us through the stuff for this module's challenge activities. And I hope it goes well for you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.